Okay, so we might get going then. It's nearly 4 minutes past 1, and if we have any latecomers, they can join in. You're all very welcome to today's webinar for our upcoming Level 9 Postgraduate Certificate in Climate Entrepreneurship. This is a Springboard funded course, and it's currently open on the Springboard website, that's springboardcourses.ie, for application. All applications are to go through there. So the aim of this course is to provide an integrated process for students, in preparing students for both opportunities and the challenges that arise from climate entrepreneurship. The course will provide aspiring entrepreneurs and tomorrow's change makers with the skills needed to really have an impact on climate change. Today, we're joined with our Senior Programme Manager, Gillian Ruddy, and she's going to speak with Dr. Quentin Crowley from Trinity's Centre for the Environment, and they're going to discuss just some of the topics explored on this course. So without further ado, thank you both for joining us, and I'll hand over to you, Jill.
Thanks so much, Jane. Hi, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here chatting to you today. As Jane said, I'm one of the program managers in Tangent, and part of my role is designing, co-designing and co-developing the incredible suite of courses that we run here in Tangent, all of which are centered around innovation, creativity, and very excitingly, we've got this new offering centered around climate entrepreneurship. Quentin, would you like to introduce yourself to our attendees?
Yes, thanks Jane, and thanks Gillian for the introduction. My name is Quentin Crowley. I'm an associate professor within the School of Natural Sciences in Trinity College, and I'm also director of Trinity Centre for the Environment, which is a research and postgraduate teaching centre in college. So as Gillian mentioned, we've been developing this new course for a while now, and we're very excited to offer it. We're looking forward to getting started and to meeting some of you there.
Brilliant. We really are so excited to be bringing this course online. I mean, climate issues are just, they're so important. There's no question marks over that anymore. This is such a pressing issue for all of us in myriad ways. Quentin, can you let us know and let our attendees know what's the overarching aim for this program?
Right, well, we have three main aims, if I can talk about these in turn. As you've mentioned, the effects of climate change are very widespread, locally and globally. And there's no denying that this is the reality of today. So with that in mind, this course is offering something new in this area of climate entrepreneurship. And the three main goals really, primarily we want to build awareness. So we want to create awareness for the students who are enrolled in the course about the kinds of effects that climate change is happening and the impacts of these effects, both locally within their environment, but also scaled so people have a greater awareness of what is happening globally due to climate change impacts. So this is one of the aims, is building awareness. A second really comes back to the people, the students, and this is building capacity. And you can think about this as individual capacity, so the individual student, and you can also think about this as building capacity of a community or a growing community of entrepreneurs. So really what we hope to do in the course is to give people the skills and the knowledge that they need in order to be part of a solution to the current climate challenges. And in doing so, we hope to provide students with a whole range of skills, some of which will be transferable, many of which, in fact, will be transferable skills to become successful entrepreneurs within this subject area. So I mentioned there are three aims. The third really is about, I mentioned communities. Again, coming back to that, providing a space for students to network, to meet like-minded people, and to be integrated into this growing community of people and actors with greater awareness of climate change issues, and people who are like-minded and really want to do something to change the current state of play.
Thank you so much, Quentin. I mean, it's really clear that the aims are quite diverse, And the way that the course is being built, it's fair to say that it's going to speak to a lot of people, in that we're going to see very, very quickly that climate is about so much more than perhaps what immediately springs to mind. But I'm wondering that, because we really want to ensure that people understand that these courses, we want them to be very accessible as well. So can you tell us a little bit about, because I know we've discussed this, who would benefit from attending a course like this, or who do you see as being the type of person who should apply to this PG Cert?
Yes, it's a good question, and accessibility is really key here. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So as I've just mentioned, climate change is something which is all pervasive. It affects absolutely, every part of the globe. Some parts disproportionately to others. And in terms of people, quite often you will have heard about the climate justice side of things and how certain sections of society are more adversely affected than others. So kind of with these two things in mind, speaking physically, geographically, and socially, if we're to think about climate change and trying to tackle the issues of climate change or the challenges, we cannot really achieve this by focusing on a single subject area. And why do I mention that? If we're to achieve some kind of widespread or systemic change in order to tackle the climate change impacts, we have to work with as diverse a cohort of people or students as possible. So, really we've designed the course to be very open, to people from all different kinds of backgrounds and subject areas. And I should add as well that, quite a lot of the coursework is going to be in groups. And the strength of groups really is that individual members of the groups have their own skill set, their own unique background and personal experiences, and people can bring these skills and experiences to the table to work with their group to try and address some of these challenges that they've chosen to work on. So we're very much in favor of, opening this very wide, casting the net wide, and accessibility really is key for a number of reasons. So in terms of accessibility, we've designed this as a part-time course. So it could suit people who are maybe currently in employment, or they have other activities which are happening, and the course can fit around these other activities. So you won't be a full-time student. It's a part-time evening course. It'll be 2 evenings per week. And it was mentioned at the start, this is Springboard funded, and the applications go through the Springboard website. And this is important for us because the course is fully funded. So it's free to eligible applicants. And it's important to us because we don't want finance or the fees to act as a barrier, and we want to be as inclusive as possible here, really.
Fantastic. And it's funny, and as you're describing the courses, and I know from my own experience of working with the Tangent courses that we run, because we have a suite of courses, as I said, around innovation and creativity. I think maybe one of the things that people don't realize is, as adult learners, that every single person who comes onto the course will be bringing so much to the table. And part of what we do on our side is that we design courses that enable people to shine with those skills that they're bringing. And that's so important to us, that it's not just this one-way information system. We're going to rely on you, our participants, our students, to really enhance and empower other students who are on the course. So, yes. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to be able to experience. It really, it's incredible. And I suppose I get very excited and very animated when I talk about these courses, because I have the experience of seeing these transformative experiences of people coming back into education and working on subject areas that they're passionate about. So I know what incredible benefits our students stand to gain from the course. But Quentin, can you describe in your mind, what do you think your ARC students can expect to gain from enrolling on this particular course?
Right, well, I mentioned new skills or enhancing skills, existing skills, and I could categorize these, I suppose, in two main fields. One is very subject specific, and the other is transferable or soft skills. So any student who enrolls in the course can expect to develop new skills in these areas or enhance their existing skills. And you might be asking yourself, well, what are these subject specific skills that we're talking about here? So I see a main advantage of this particular course is that it's inherently designed to have a great deal of flexibility so that participants and students can focus on certain aspects related to climate change and climate action and entrepreneurship, which may be of particular interest to them. And we know that people are best motivated working on something which is really close to their hearts and they're passionate about. So through various coursework activities, there is this built-in flexibility to focus on specific subject areas. So we see this very much as being demand-led, and in a way it's bespoke. Certain aspects of this are bespoke to the individual needs of the student. And I think that's really a great attribute of this course, and that's something I'm particularly excited about myself. From a practical point of view, students enrolled in the course will of course have access to a range of services in Trinity College Dublin. So for instance, this would include online and in-person access to TCD libraries. Students will have ID cards, student ID cards, which will give them access to different areas of campus, COVID allowing, of course. And other benefits that I can think of include student support systems, or for instance, career development services. And these are designed to help all students, progress in this journey through their course, and also to help them prepare for the next stage of their careers. So it comes as a package, this is an individual part-time postgraduate course, but in enrolling in the course, you become a Trinity student. And there are a range of supports and activities which become accessible to you as an enrolled student. If I could add one more thing, Julian, I'll say that what can students expect? A major area of interest with the course, of course, is around entrepreneurship and developing an entrepreneurial mindset, but something which maybe does not come as obvious to people is that we're really hoping to develop a systems thinking mindset also. And systems are big, complex things, and they can be very difficult to understand. But in seeing the kind of this bigger picture of a system, we can really begin to understand the kind of complexities of that system, whatever it may be. Maybe we're talking about a climate system, or it could be a social system. So that in itself is a very transferable, or both of these are very transferable skills, in that you can apply these kind of methodologies or mindsets in systems thinking and entrepreneurship to a whole range of different topics. And I see that as a really great attribute of this course.
I absolutely, I completely agree. It's part of the reason why I'm so excited about this course. It's that these types of courses really are at the forefront of not only academic knowledge, but practical application. And you use that phrase, it's the transferable skills element. That although this is climate, entrepreneurship is the vehicle that we're going to develop these skills, those skills could be used in such a wide variety of different settings. And then it's not just about the acquisition of academic knowledge on this course. It will be about developing all of those mindsets through the workshops, through the assessments, through the group work. It's very multifaceted. It's a very multifaceted type of learning. And I think that that's something that we pride ourselves on in Tangent, that we really are delivering courses with the adult learner in mind, and that we specifically tailor our courses to the needs of adult learners. So with that in mind, Quentin, I'm sure that people would love to hear more about what can they expect in terms of the content of the course, or who's going to be speaking to them over their studying journey.
Yes, okay. So we're very excited to be working with a whole range of different experts in different subject areas. If I could give some examples of subject areas. So let me think: climate justice, sustainable land use, bioeconomy, nature-based solutions, energy, future cities, housing, climate action. It's a very broad range.
Yeah.
And we've deliberately gone out to seek certain experts within these areas. And what we've found is we've been met with such a huge amount of enthusiasm when contacting possible contributors to this course, and that these experts are really keen to engage. They see this as a hugely important topic, and they're very keen to contribute their expert knowledge to help others in their journey in this area. So we've deliberately gone out to choose a wide range of different subject areas and sectors, but also different types of people with different backgrounds, maybe different kind of mindsets themselves or different approaches in terms of how they tackle challenges, and people at different stages of their careers, you know. So we would welcome students who may be on different stages of their own careers or journeys. They may be more advanced professionals, they may be recent graduates, they may be people seeking to pivot within their career. So it's important really that this is also reflected in terms of the range of contributors to the course too. So in terms of the content, in a generic sense or in a general sense, a lot of the learning is problem-based learning. So students will be able to identify their own subject areas within some modules, parts of the course, and ultimately, you know, work towards developing their own action plans and their own solutions to climate change, whatever that may be. There will be several opportunities to engage with professionals and particularly to learn from entrepreneurs so that we can hear about the entrepreneur's own personal experiences and we can learn from these. You know, and there's a great saying about learning through mistakes and mistakes being a great opportunity to learn. And I find it very interesting to hear other people's journeys and to hear them explain the kinds of pitfalls that they encountered and how they got around these. And I think there's great value to that, particularly when hearing from entrepreneurs who've been through early parts of their journey within the ecosystem in Ireland, and to learn from them about these experiences. So I see that as being particularly beneficial.
It's something that tends to surprise people a little bit when I tell them that actually we emphasize and embrace failure on a lot of the courses that we do. We genuinely lean into it, and we do, and we talk about it, and we give people, not only do we give people the freedom to fail, but we encourage people to fail because there's so much learning that can be done within that process. But the difference is that we use models to help people to really fail spectacularly cleverly and to get a huge amount out of it. So we do things differently. And yeah, it's fair to say that all of the contributors, and you're so right, everyone is so enthusiastic about this. Everyone is jumping at the chance. I think there's such a hunger, such a need to really start driving those change makers, the next generation of change makers who are going to help to drive the future of this area. I'm going to get a little bit more, I'm going to go in even more into your comfort zone now, and I really want to ask you a very climate related question because, and this is, we're going to be addressing some very big topics and some very big questions at various different points on the course. So there's been widespread discussion recently that Ireland needs to stop tinkering around the edges on climate change after a report from the EPA showed that Ireland's current climate plans and proposals are too slow and not being implemented effectively. So can you tell us more about the scope of these issues? What is it going to take for us to drive that positive change? And how will the content of this course help people to become the change makers in the area?
That's a great question, Jill. I think perhaps I could talk for an hour on this, but I don't have that long. So I'll try and keep it short. Well, let me see. There is a bit of an elephant in the room. You know, really, if we look at greenhouse gas emissions in Ireland, it's known that over a third of our emissions are related to the agricultural sector. And I don't say this to point a finger at any particular sector. This is just the state of play at the moment. It's a fact. I'd go further to say that it's over a third is probably a conservative estimate if you think about it, because when you look at the distribution of greenhouse gas emissions by sector, you might notice that transport and energy are reported separately. So if you were to include agricultural transport and agricultural energy within the agricultural part of the pie chart, it would be considerably more than 1/3, you know, really. It's known that this is the case. However, you know, tackling that big issue in Ireland is very challenging and very problematic for a whole load of reasons. I mean, if we look at this from an EU perspective, Ireland has the highest agricultural emission contribution from any member of, you know, EU. And that says a lot. Obviously, agriculture is hugely important to Ireland's economy. And there is a whole cultural and heritage aspect of this has been part of activities, farming activities for generations and generations. So trying to do something which tackles this is, has to be done very sensitively. If you mentioned the EPA report, so if people haven't had a read of this, I encourage you to go onto the EPA website and have a look. There's some very useful infographics. You don't have to read every single page. You can go to different sections and look at summaries. So I'd encourage you to look at that. If you do have a look, you might notice that the report calls for systems change and a need to accelerate sectoral and societal outcomes, such as, for instance, environmentally sustainable agriculture. So within the EPA report, this is mentioned specifically in terms of agriculture and creating more sustainable solutions to agricultural challenges in Ireland. So certainly the EPA report highlights this. It's not the only report. It calls for a holistic farm management approach, I think it refers to. And any such approach really ought to take into account a whole range of environmental pressures, but not just environmental, societal pressures. And if you recall a few minutes ago, I mentioned this systems thinking or systems innovation approach, which is really key to this course in climate entrepreneurship. So I see these two things, aligned quite well, and really it's reiterating the importance of a systems thinking mindset.
Yeah.
If you give me a couple more minutes, I can say a couple more points.
Do, absolutely.
Okay. If we think about agriculture and creating sustainable solutions to current agricultural practices, it's not just about the farm. Key to any sector, the people. So whatever sector we're working with, maybe it's multi-sectoral as well, any solution that we propose really needs to be mindful of people. And this is what is meant about just transition. So if I can use another example in relation to sustainable land use, not agriculture per se, but land use in Ireland. You might have noticed in the media there was a recent announcement of a considerable investment by the Irish government in the Midlands of Ireland. And specifically, this is in relation to Ireland's wetlands. If you think about these from an ecological perspective, or if you think about them from a carbon budget perspective, Ireland's wetlands are hugely important in maintaining a balance of the carbon budget within the island of Ireland. So the wetlands of Ireland you could think of, so, like the bogs, the coastal wetlands, you can think of these as kind of Ireland's rainforests in that they're sequestering and they're storing huge amounts of carbon. And what we've seen in recent years within the country is we've witnessed a major change in how wetlands are viewed. So in other words, pivoting from, for instance, peat extraction, which has been going on for generations and generations, and pivoting from extracting peat as a resource for fuel or for land soil additives, changing to view them as, something which can offer a service, like an ecosystem service, or maybe using the land for restoration purposes so that you restore this balance of carbon sequestration rather than carbon extraction, or helping local bioeconomy, which is a huge area of interest and an area of opportunity within Ireland, not to mention renewable energy generation, for instance. So I mention this because it's hugely important in Ireland at the moment, and it does highlight this recent kind of change in attitude towards our bogs and towards our wetlands in general. And it highlights that, this notion that it's possible to make a positive contribution to the economy and to try to decouple the economy from carbon emissions. It's a challenging time for all of us, but we can see specifically in the Midlands and Ireland and elsewhere in Europe, momentum is really building in these kinds of efforts. And with respect to Ireland, Ireland is certainly becoming less fragmented and I would say more effective in tackling these kinds of challenges. So really I see this very timely for introduction for this course. And I see it as, yes, it's certainly a challenging time. It's not going to be simple to find these kinds of solutions, but it's a very exciting time to become a climate entrepreneur and to help to contribute to Ireland's efforts in reaching national and EU targets towards a low carbon economy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Quinta. I mean, it just becomes increasingly obvious that climate is no longer an other subject, is it? It's not something for other people to worry about anymore, that it's, even if you were somebody who only had a passing interest in climate issues, from what I'm hearing from what you're saying is that there's so many, as you say, it's that the systems elements, so many different of the moving parts are so intrinsically linked that students on our course will, it's that critical thinking element. By immersing yourself in this world, you get to understand, for want of a very bad phrase, that joined up thinking, you know, that we talk about, that is so necessary now, that we cannot deal with these pressing issues in isolation, that we have to think about think about them in terms of, as you say, the society and the economy. So there's really very few people who this possibly wouldn't appeal to, because it has so many very practical applications in the world beyond. I'm conscious that I'm sure there are a number of questions that people listening might have. Jane, you're with us there, are you? Would you be able to field a couple of questions for us or throw some out?
Absolutely, Jill. We're getting some great questions in here in the chat box, so I might just go through. I've answered them, but we'll run through them. Bear with me a second. And thanks everybody for your engagement. It's really, really interesting. Okay, so how many credits on the course? So I answered that one. It's 30. It's a level 9 postgraduate worth 30 credits, 30 ECTS.
Absolutely.
And there are 3 10-credit modules,
yes,
which you'll see described in the chat. I can see you've added these. And then we will more evidence of HEA funding. So it's a Springboard Plus funded course for those in employment. That means that Springboard fund 90% of the course, with 10% of fees made payable by the student upon registration for the course. So to break that down, that 10% is €375. What type of assessments are expected from students? I'll hand it over to you guys.
Always a question that comes up, and it's one that I really enjoy answering, because I always get to say, we don't have exams. We don't use exams on these courses. Across our suite of education courses in Tangent, because of the types of topics that we cover, in this case, climate entrepreneurship, innovation, systems thinking, creativity, it's very hard to examine that. In a sense, you can't sit down, well, you can, but it's not something that we ideologically would support. Instead, we use a series of both group and individual projects. There will be a number of presentations that you do, again, both as groups and as individuals. We use online discussion forums that are built into the learning management system that we use. So there is some independent work being expected, both as a group and on an individual basis. And because this is experiential learning, because this is geared towards the adult learner, we know that adults learn best by doing, but in order to really engage with that learning properly, it involves an element of reflection. So there are written reflections also at the end of each module, and that helps you to really embed all of that learning that you've done, not only again in terms of the acquisition of knowledge, but also in terms of the change of your mindset and the change in your behaviors. And you'll get into the habit of being able to understand, what is it that I've just learned and how am I going to use that going forward? So it's a series of continuous assessments that we use.
Thanks, Jill. So what is the course workload? You've kind of answered that there in terms of assignments and continuous assessment. So yeah, plenty of that on each module.
There would be a number. It's very hard for us, and again, that's something we often get asked. There is, there's going to be different periods of time around deadlines when you'll find yourself perhaps doing a little bit more than other times. But overall, it equates to approximately a few hours a week on top of what you're doing. We do have course coordinators, program coordinators are attached to each and every one of our courses, and you'll also have Quentin as well. And we're very cognizant of the fact that for many people who are coming onto the course, this might be your return to education after a number of years, and that brings a certain amount of stress and worry with it. So we really take great care to ensure that we're supporting our adult learners as they transition through that journey, both coming back into education and getting ready to leave it with all of these incredible new ideas.
Excellent. And we have one here. It's saying, I'm very interested in tackling climate issues, but I'm currently enrolled in the postgraduate certificate in creative and cultural entrepreneurship. Any opportunities outside of this course to engage with climate issues at Trinity? Good question.
I'm definitely going to leave that one up to Quentin to look after.
Well, if you are already enrolled in a course in Trinity, you should have access, and if you don't, ask about it. There are a whole range of different, workshops, seminars, activities. They could be student-led. They could be visiting researchers coming to give a talk or a workshop. There is a lot happening across many different schools and faculties. So I'd say, reach out to your contacts and try and make some new ones and find out what's going on within the college setting on campus and off campus,
Quentin, are there any student societies around? Because that would be a very
Yes.
easy way for a student to become engaged. So all of our students on all of our courses, as Quentin said, you're a fully registered Trinity student, which means that you have full access to all of the supports and also the network and the community that Trinity has to offer. So as students, is there, what student
societies? So there's the
society,
Environmental Society,
Yeah.
for instance. They have a great Facebook site, and I think they have a Twitter account as well. So get on social media and track them down, and you'll be able to have a look at their recent activities or contact them directly and find out more. It's a good
Perfect.
starting point.
Absolutely.
Yep.
After the course finishes, is there a support network or grants available for the students to progress any ideas that we may come up with during the course?
That's a good question. So maybe I could start on that one, Jill.
Do.
For a number of years, Trinity and Tangent have offered support in helping students to set up their own companies on their entrepreneurship journey. So we have a number of avenues which are available in terms of supports, some of which do have a grant component if you're successful. So details of these kinds of activities will be given on courses, and there are different types really for different stages of the entrepreneurship journey, whether you're just starting out to develop an idea, you're just networking with maybe people you've met on the course and you want to further develop your ideas, or at the other end, you may have something like a product or a service which is ready for market, and you really need to know how to navigate the funding ecosystem within entrepreneurship within Ireland. So we have different types of support services or courses or workshops which will help you on that journey.
Thank you, Quentin. Will lectures be available to access if you are unable to attend any of the classes, or is attendance compulsory?
So we do have, and it's actually a springboard requirement that you have to, there's a mandatory 80% attendance requirement for all of our springboard supported courses. Now, we do understand that real life happens, and we want to support our students in any way that we can. So if somebody found that they had, maybe there was some pre-existing or something happened, you'd need to speak specifically to the course coordinator, speak to Quentin to find out, or speak to me about whether or not it was possible. But by and large, we do require that it's an 80% attendance. And one of the big reasons for that is because it's experiential learning. This is not the type of knowledge and type of information that you can easily pick up from a book. Because it's so workshop based, particularly in that first module where it's all about systems thinking, an absence from one of those classes would be quite a big loss in terms of your progression on the course. So that's the requirement for attendance. But the good news is that, yes, all of our online content is recorded and all students have access to it following the completion of class.
Thanks, Jill. It's a good question, I suppose, to ask yourselves as well when you are deciding to apply to this. You know, it is funded, you know, this is a great opportunity. It's a wonderful course, and Springboard are more or less paying for the entirety of it, either 100% or, as I say, 90%. So do ask yourself that question, as we will really, you know, like to get everybody to be able to participate as much of the time as possible. I'll go on to the next question that has come in here. What are the titles of the 3 modules covered? So I actually put that in the chat. You'll find that that module 1 is Systems Innovation for Positive Climate Action. Module 2 is Entrepreneurship Opportunities in Climate Adaptation and Mitigation. And module 3 is Climate Enterprise Development.
And these 3 modules, it's worth adding that they have equal credit rating. So it's 3 by 10 ECTS. So 30 credits in total.
That's right. Thanks, Quentin. And so somebody has said here that a major one is career guidance. Will this be in place to help us use this knowledge in the current workforce? I am struggling at the moment to transfer my passion to a relevant job description. It's a very new topic, so it's hard to find the correct jobs to apply for. A career guidance personnel would be a huge help.
So yes, is the short answer. So there's both a taught element of career design. It's actually Quentin who's going to be leading out on that. So there is classes around career design in the context of climate entrepreneurship. But again, as a registered Trinity student, you do have access to the career service as well. So there's there's 2 different ways of looking at it. You can get climate entrepreneurship specific advice through class, or you can request meeting with careers to help you to figure that out.
Excellent. That's really great. Will there be active stakeholder engagement in the course? For example, will you have agricultural experts that participate or give talks in the course?
Yes, is the short answer. So we see this as a really key attribute of the course, in that there is very widespread stakeholder engagement across many different sectors. The vast majority of content providers, particularly for that first module in Systems Innovation for Climate Action, are external to Trinity College, actually, and some of whom are Trinity graduates, some of whom are not. And we see this as important in terms of, you know, gaining the knowledge from different sectors and different individuals. So stakeholder engagement is really key part of the whole course, but, you know, particularly around that first module. And we're excited to say that, you know, we've had fantastic response from everybody we've contacted, and we'll be providing further details of the individual people who are contributing at a later date.
Excellent. That's all the questions that have come in on the chat box for now. I'm going to share with you all another slide that shows a few helpful links if you want to find out more about the course. And we also have another Q&A on this course. Let me just pop that into slideshow mode. So there you can see that if you want to register for our follow-up open evening on the 14th of January 2021, it starts at 6 p.m. It will go on till about 7 o'clock, and there's a link there where you can register to come to that. So that's bit.ly/open evening climate. For further information on the course, you can visit the Tangent website. And again, that's bit.ly/tangent climate to take you directly to the page on this course. And then finally, the link to apply. All applications must come through the Springboard portal, the Springboard website, and you can access that on springboardcourses.ie/details/8276. Thank you both, Jill and Quentin, for such an informative discussion. It really is fantastic to see a course like this coming on offer and to have it funded as well, and really to provide a platform to give people the skills needed to make a real impact on climate change. So thank you both for attending. If there's any more questions, feel free to send them on to springboard@tcd.ie and I will answer from there. Otherwise, I think that's it for today. And thank you all for joining us and for your engagement. And I hope you all have a lovely end of your day, rest of your day.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks,
Thank you,
Lee and
everybody.
Quentin. Thanks, Jane.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thanks. Bye-bye.